I'm Nathan Taylor. I'm here with the team at the SourcePass Microsoft Center of Excellence, and we're excited to talk with you about more things Microsoft. To nerd out a little bit, we want to be your source of information on the products, on all the crazy license changes, on all the complexity that is the Microsoft ecosystem and technology, and just be the place where you can get up to date information on all things Microsoft. Today, we are extending our series. We have a four-part series we're going to do on email security, mostly around things like SPF and DKIM and some of the technologies around making sure your email is deliverable and how you filter it when it's coming in. So I'm really excited to jump in and go a little bit deeper. We have some exciting other series coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. Check us out, subscribe to us on the various channels, and keep up to date with all the content that we're going to try and bring to you weekly, sometimes a couple times a week, with Wade doing some awesome podcasts on what's new at Microsoft. So excited to jump in today. Today, we're going to go a little deeper on the technologies behind the things we've been talking about the last few weeks. And it's going to be simultaneously a little bit nerdier for those of you who are maybe less technical. And for those of you who are more technical, maybe kind of not interesting because you know a lot of it. So we're going to jump in and talk about SPF and DKIM and DMARC and DNS, which are kind of fundamental pieces of email, but are sometimes a problem and it can be confusing. So we're going to jump in here and talk about them. So let me share my screen here. I'm sharing a screen off to my right here. So I might be looking right a little bit, but it's just a better resolution for sharing online. So all these technologies really start with DNS. Have you ever heard the phrase DNS? It stands for Domain Name System. And it's kind of the phone book that drives the internet. When I need to go to google.com, DNS is how my computer figures out who to talk to get that content. It's like the Google Maps. I was in London recently, and the ability to say I want to go to Kensington Palace and just pull up Google Maps, and it says walk 300 feet, go through this tube station, go to platform 3, go 4 stops, and you're there. It's kind of what DNS does for the internet. It tells everything how to get where it's going. And this fundamental technology of DNS underpins so many things. In the industry, we have the joke that it's always DNS. If something's broken, it's always DNS that broke it. And I think that was more applicable back in the server world. But even in the modern world, especially the email world, DNS becomes really critical because a lot of these technologies that are used for sending email and verifying who's sending and receiving email are built in the DNS environment. That's how they're executed. And so, DNS servers are everywhere. You can look up your domain and you can find out all kinds of information about it. So let's look up our test domain here. You can see here that we have our MX records here pointing to Microsoft. We can go do a DNS check here, and you can see it shows, and this is a free tool, mxtoolbox.com. Anybody can come use this on their own information. This shows you my domain name servers, my DNS servers. So these are the servers that maintain all the records for this domain. These are GoDaddy domain controller domain name servers. And I can also go in here and we can do a DNS lookup, which will show you some information about an A record here. And then I can go do a whois lookup and figure out where my domain is hosted. You can see here it's GoDaddy. And then most of this information about who owns it is all through a private interface that GoDaddy lets you run. But this is the kind of information DNS has. All the technologies we're going to talk about today are primarily executed via DNS. You update records, create records, and then the other tools leverage those records to verify and ensure deliverability on your email. But it's important to start with DNS because number one, it's really important that you know what's going on with your DNS. And we do think that not all DNS servers solutions are created equal. A lot of times your marketing department's going to want to run the DNS, and maybe they want to run it on the 2Cow site or Wix. And these website companies and marketing companies like to manage DNS. But I would argue that your domain name is one of the most important assets for your business. And you don't want your marketing company to own it. That is your property. That is an incredibly important part of your business. If you lose it, it doesn't get renewed, somebody else steals it, you're in a world of hurt. There is no legal recourse for not renewing your domain or losing access to it. And if they buy your domain, they own it, and you're going to have to buy it back. So it's very important that you keep track of your domain. We recommend using a higher quality DNS provider. GoDaddy's actually not too bad. They're pretty decent, pretty cost effective. I'm a big fan of Cloudflare. They are really on the cutting edge of DNS capability. AWS has some good capabilities, and there's a few other providers that are solid. But it is important to maintain access. Put MFA on all your credentials for your DNS. If you're just running it through GoDaddy, it knows no MFA, and it's just kind of really simple, and it's what you set up in 2005, and you haven't messed with it. It's really important you stay on top of that. One of the other things that's come up lately, and I don't remember if GoDaddy has a check for this, is, and I mentioned this on our last call, is DNS security. So here's an article about turning on DNSSEC, or domain name security extensions is actually the full name of it. In GoDaddy, it's just a couple clicks. This is a public knowledge base article. It's very easy to do. And here's an article. We'll post links to this on how to get to Cloudflare's DNSSEC capabilities. And they have a whole article. Cloudflare has some really great information about how these technologies work. And this is from their article about how DNS works. What is DNS? How do they manage it? How do you secure it? Lots of great information if you want to learn more. But what they do here is DNSSEC really allows you to say, not only are your records hosted in Cloudflare, but Cloudflare will sign and vouch for those records. And that's going to become a topic we talk about a lot today, which is the idea that I can send you an email or I can send you a DNS record, but how do you know it's actually from me? And a lot of the times in the internet world, we use signing. We cryptographically sign it. So we take the ones and zeros and whatever we're sending, we run it through a cryptographic algorithm, and we get a signature for it, and we include the signature. And then we use our private key to generate the signature off of the content. And then when we send it to you, your side then can take that information, take that key and the content, and use our public key and verify that the content is not only legitimately from me, but it also has not been altered. It gives you not only verification of who sent it, but depending on the kind of record and the way it's being implemented, you can also verify that there have been no changes made in the content. Now, a number of the conversations we're going to have in coming weeks are tied to having DNSSEC in place, because it's a way of kind of controlling the information chain from the top down, from where your registrar on down, to say, yes, Nathan owns flaskaway.com. Yes, it's his GoDaddy account. Yes, this is the correct record. Yes, you can use it to confirm that that email sender is properly secured and is properly signed this information. And the entire chain is able to be verified. Because one of the things that can happen is, yes, that's a signed email, but I can't verify that the record that was used to sign it is actually you, because it's not signed. And so DNSSEC really allows us to go deeper on this. Most of the time in Cloudflare and GoDaddy worlds, turning on DNSSEC is very painless. It's a checkbox, not much changes, but it actually really allows a lot of these technologies we're talking about here. And it actually makes your DNS more secure. It starts to make it much harder for people to maybe squat one of your subdomains and start to take advantage of your internet presence on the DNS side. Adding DNSSEC can start to secure some of those capabilities too. So highly recommend that if you manage a domain, you put it behind MFA, you put it on a trusted source. You don't let your marketing person be in complete control of that, or your marketing firm. Oftentimes it's a third party that wants to own it. Take it back. It's yours. Give them access to your environment. And then make sure you enable DNSSEC. It's a simple step, but it really enables a lot of key things that we're going to talk about. And I'm not going to dig into this. There's a lot of stuff in here about all the technical jargon. But I will give you a pro tip here. If you want to learn more, I've got an exciting thing to show you, which is if you're running Microsoft 365 Copilot, there's this new capability called research. And you could send it a question. So here's an example of what I asked it about this week, today, just to show you this. And it's a lot of information because it's very, very thorough. But I want to show you the kind of stuff you can do with a ChatGPT or a Copilot. Hey, I don't understand DNSSEC. Give me an overview. Well, in this case, I asked it, I said, help me understand DNSSEC. And it asked me a clarifying question. It's like, would you like me to do a very detailed overview? And I said, give me a general overview. And you can see that Copilot then went and pulled all kinds of sources to give me all kinds of information about how DNSSEC works. We're not going to go through this today. It's beyond the scope of our conversation. And frankly, there's a lot of it that's hard for me to even understand. It gets deep into cryptography and records and certifications and signing. And it's a lot of intense details. So then I came back to Copilot Researcher and I said, can you summarize for me? I gotta scroll. As you can see, there's a lot of data here. This is one of the cool things about AI is it lets you do something like this. It aggregates information from all over the internet and gives me a very thorough reading on it. So we scroll down here to the bottom. I asked it to give me a summary. Let's go find that. And it created a summary. And where is that? This demo is not going well. This is way more information than I wanted to show you. But I just wanted to show you that you can take something like Copilot and ask it to summarize this information for you. And it's a really good way to learn about something. The other cool technology that's out there is, this is not a product we sell, but it's an awesome product, is Google Notebook LM. One of the coolest new technologies I've seen recently. And if you're trying to learn about these things, my filter does not like it. Doesn't want to give me access to it because we have a filter on what AI solutions we're allowed to work with, which is great. We have some controlling variables in there. What Google Notebook LM is it's a tool that I use mostly on my phone that allows me to give it websites, PDFs, or YouTube videos, and I can upload it to Google Notebook and say, turn this into a podcast for me. And it goes and reviews all the content in the documents and the websites and YouTube videos you gave it. And it creates an artificial intelligence generated AI podcast on the content. And it's really good. It's a really good way to learn about a topic. So go kill two birds with one stone and go grab yourself Google Notebook LM. Ask it to explain, give it some articles like that Cloudflare article and ask it to explain to you all you want to know about DNSSEC and listen to a really informative podcast that was generated just for the purposes of your learning. All right, so we've talked about DNS and DNSSEC. This is the underlying technology that we're going to need for our next set of conversations, which is what are DMARC, DKIM, and SPF? And of course, I'm back on a Cloudflare article. Cloudflare has the best content. They're an amazing DNS, and they do a lot of really cool technology, zero trust, and they're the front end for a lot of websites and really do some great stuff. But one of the things they do well is they give back to the industry. They really create great content and are very generous in how they kind of share things that are driving things forward. So they got a great article about these technologies. All three of these things, DMARC, DKIM, and SPF, are authentication methods. They're ways that you can show the world that the email you're sending is legitimate. And that becomes a big deal because in the internet, anybody can send an email as you. It's allowed. It's an open ecosystem. The rules are all kind of lax like that. And I can send an email as you. Now, the smarter mail servers won't just accept email from everybody. They're going to pay attention. Is it a blacklisted email server? Is it a verified domain? Do I trust it? And so it becomes very important these days that if you are trying to make sure that your corporate email is going to be received by your clients and your customers and your vendors, you need to have these things dialed in so that the authentication is there, so that the receiving senders trust the email coming from you. And as you improve your authentication level, then the receiving servers can start to trust you even further because they see how valid your valid mail is, and anything spoofing you is less likely to go through. So your email is more likely to be received and the fake stuff is less likely to be received. And this is really important, especially if you're running a business where you're doing email marketing. You're sending out emails to thousands or tens of thousands of customers a month with your marketing materials. You really want this dialed in because otherwise they're going to reject your email and you're losing that connection point to your customers. So this is kind of a layer of technologies that work together and were invented for the filters to start to understand who's legitimately sending email. So SPF is the first thing we're going to talk about. It is a SPF record is a way for a company or a domain to list the servers that are authorized to send email from them. So you can go create a SPF record and we'll go back to our handy dandy MX toolbox here, and we're going to go look up what the MX record, the SPF record is for our flaskaway.com testing email domain. And you can see here that we have just one record in here because it's a testing domain. We don't have a lot of details in here. But this is a standardized format for the way the record gets published. It gets published as a record in your DNS, a text record, and it allows people receiving email from you to know who's allowed to send as you. So a lot of companies will have, similar to this, they'll have their outlook.com for their corporate Microsoft 365, the protection.outlook.com, MX record and SPF record is how they send all their emails. So that'll be in there. Oftentimes it'll include, your MailChimps or your Amazon S3, whatever solutions you're using to send your bulk email. Maybe you send invoices from QuickBooks or another tool. So you have 3 or 4 hosts listed in this. You can have up to 10. And most services will tell you what you should use for their SPF record when you sign up with them. And it's important that when you think through who you're sending email as, you go and find all the proper records and get them in here. One of the common mistakes I see is that people, when they go to add another service, they copy the SPF record out of that service's documentation and go add it as an extra DNS record. That's a problem. You're only supposed to have one SPF record per domain. So when you want to add something, you need to add it to your existing SPF record, not create another one. 2 SPF records will cause you all kinds of nightmares. And we're always happy to help you with that. It's a little bit touchy to do. The other thing I would say is when you do make SPF records changes, always come to a tool like MX Toolbox and go check your SPF record after it publishes. Make sure it's compliant. You get all these green check boxes and you don't have a major syntax issue. Hold on, is my computer acting up? There we go. So SPF records are critical. We also have some tools that we can run. We run a tool called Easy DMARC that we can set up on your domain that gets reporting and can help you know if your services are aligned with SPF. Most services do pretty good. There are some services like HubSpot that are notorious for not aligning with their own SPF record. That's okay. That's why there's multiple records here. That's why we have DKIM and DMARC. We can start to dial in the overall experience, but it's important to do your best to get your email aligned to SPF. The next record we're going to talk about is DKIM. DKIM is Domain Keys Identified Mail. It allows email senders to automatically sign emails from the domain, and they leave that signature to make sure that it shows a couple things. It can verify not only that the email is sent from a trusted sender, but it also can verify that the email hasn't been modified. There are times when the email signature gets messed up if the email is modified. It's one of the reasons we're not a fan of MX record-based mail filters like a Proofpoint or a Mimecast, although both, I believe, support API-based filtering. I think it's important in the modern email world to try to get your email to go straight into Microsoft servers and have your mail filter run over the API rather than on the MX record. Because what we're seeing a lot of is as that email flows through that third-party mail record in front of Office 365, that server modifies the email by inserting a disclaimer or a spam tag, and that causes the DKIM to no longer sign the email. And Microsoft gets an email it doesn't want to trust. The other problem you get is that Proofpoint server is not authorized to send as all the people you're receiving email for. So you get an email from vendor A, they don't have Proofpoint, but Microsoft sees that the IP they got the email from is Proofpoint. And there's a conflict there on that email where it's sent by a domain, but from a Proofpoint server, but that domain doesn't list Proofpoint in the SPF record. And so you can see how this would create a kind of a mess with all your inbound email kind of not matching the internet standards we have for authenticating email. So I think it's kind of one of those seasons where we really want to start to evaluate how we're running our mail filtering to make sure it's not causing more issues for the email we're receiving. So DKIM allows us to sign these emails. It's really easy to set up. We go and create a DNS record for it. Now these DNS records are on a subdomain or a specific host name. So we're going to look up this Selector one should give me the no, but I have to do it. Selector one underscore domain key. Hold on. So we go underscore domain key dot, and I probably fat fingered that. So I'll work on a demo for that for you next time. But you can find that it'll show a cryptographic server record. It'll point to the certificate that is signed with email. So what happens is when the mail server receives the mail, it goes and says, "Oh, I see this is your signature key. I'll go look at that, and then I'll run a hash on the email, and I'll run it through that signature and make sure it matches, make sure everything jives, and that the keys are all correct." And what it does is it validates that the email was from you and is not been modified. Big deal, because for a lot of senders, that's a great way to eliminate spoofing. I know it came from you because you signed it, and nobody can sign for you. They need your private key. That's not something you share. So only you can send signed email as you. And DKIM's become more and more important as spam has become more and more of an issue, as phishing has become more and more of an issue. And DKIM is actually the best solution for a lot of your third-party solutions. You're sending a bunch of marketing email from HubSpot. HubSpot's terrible at aligning with SPF, but they will align with DKIM. You can DKIM sign all your HubSpot emails. It validates it's from you, and it allows you to check half of the checkboxes for your email validation. And oftentimes servers are going to accept it because a signed email was pretty hard to argue against. So it's a really critical piece of the trail here to allow us to have verified emails. So then we come here and we talk about our third technology. And I know I'm moving fast here, but DMARC. DMARC is kind of the regulation that runs the SPF and DKIM together, that pulls it together, the solution that says, here's my authoritative answer on my DKIM and SPF. It's domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. It gives your receiving mail server information about if SPF and DKIM aren't aligned, what to do with that email. So it's a way for you as an organization or a domain to say, I've worked hard to get my SPF and DKIM dialed in. If you get an email from me that does not pass one of those, or maybe both of those, reject it. Don't even look at that email. It's not from me. It's spam. It's fake. I make sure I sign everything. Or you could say, hey, I have decent coverage on my SPF and DKIM. I'm still working on dialing in some things. It can be hard. It can be difficult to track down all the services running email as you. You can set up a DMARC record using a solution like Easy DMARC that we can help you run with, that allows you to get reporting. And then you can start to see where your email isn't aligned on SPF, isn't aligned on DKIM. And that seems like that maybe wouldn't be a hard thing to figure out, but for bigger orgs that send a lot of email, it can be really helpful to have that reporting before they start enforcing DMARC, to say, hey, do I have some work to do? Is there a solution I don't know about? Did marketing sign up for a new marketing solution they didn't tell me about? And none of it's signed. So if I start blocking, they're going to be done. I need to go find that, contact at marketing and find what tool they're using, get it into my solutions. So DMARC is a really critical piece. And we've gotten to the point where Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft are probably not going to receive your email, especially if it's bulk email, if it doesn't have a DMARC record. That DMARC record can actually be a none record, which means it's not sending anything. If we go back here and we go, I can show you what a DMARC record looks like. I apologize, my screen's over here to the right, so that's why I'm looking over there. Here's a DMARC record for our testing domain, and you can see here it's got a lot of information. The version of DMARC. Right now, we're set to reject. We're saying if it doesn't align with SPF and DKIM, you reject those emails. They're not real. And then it's got some reporting information for where it can send reporting of the information. And then it can also tell it how much forensic information it wants. And so these two records allow anybody receiving email from my domain to know that they should send all the reporting about the emails they're getting to this service, and that service is able to aggregate that data to give me visibility into who's sending it as me. And so, if somebody spoofs me, some threat actor decides to send email as flaskaway.com, and they send to a server that supports DMARC, they're going to immediately know, nope, this is an SPF aligned, this is not DKIM signed. Your DMARC says reject it, so I won't accept this email. but I'm going to send a report that shows the easy DMARC. Here's all the things that we're concerning about this email. And then you get reporting in easy DMARC that allows you to really understand who's sending emails successfully as you, where are you getting blocked, and who are the people really trying to pretend to be you. And on a larger, more public domain, you're going to see there's a lot of people spoofing and trying to send fake email as your company. So I don't have a demo of easy DMARC today. I don't have a good demo tenant set up with data in it, but it's a great tool. We can help you get access. We can pull up their website right now, and I can show you some of the stuff there. It's not an expensive solution, and we're happy to help you deploy it. It just allows you to come through and really understand where your email's going, gives some really good reporting on that, helps you with DMARC compliance, some great reporting, some visuals on where your email's going, that sort of thing. Check it out. Let us know if you would like to learn more. Really critical tool. And actually, Easy DMARC has a lot of great reporting on many other things. You can see here, these are topics we're going to talk about in the next few weeks. So you can see there's DMARC, SPF, and DKIM. We covered those in some depth today. And they're great topics to dig into. They're kind of the foundation pieces. You don't want to mess with anything else till you get those. They also have BIMI available. We can talk about BIMI a little bit next week. MTSTS, we'll talk about that. TLS-RPT. And so they're able to pull reporting on these newer technologies that are other ways to ensure that mail coming and going is legitimate and really improves your presence on the internet for your mail exchange to and from your company. And Easy DMARC gives you really good reporting, which can help. Some of these technologies, you want to know what's happening before you set up an enforcement rule around these technologies. We are also going to talk about DANE for SMTP on our next call, or DANE with DNSSEC. So we'll talk about BIMI, MTSTS, TLS-RPT, and DANE on our next call, and also the new mx.microsoft MX records that Microsoft has recently released. But wanted to just kind of give this base level of these are table stakes on running an email on the internet. You have to have DMARC, DKIM, and SPF. It's required. If you're not doing it, you're going to have trouble sending email to anybody. Critical steps to make sure that you are above board on your email sending. And like I said, if you would like to learn more, reach out to our team. We'd be happy to talk you through this. We have access to Easy DMARC. We can help you get it set up, get your reporting done there. We can help you build out your SPF and your DKIM and your DMARC. It's a part of our Microsoft Office 365, Defender for Office 365 deployment, where we help you with your email security between filtering and also records like this to really make sure that your phishing and virus and spam filtering inbound to your tenant is dialed in. It's a great product. We'll dig into that more in a couple weeks. But this is a critical step in it, and we'd love to help you with that. So if you have interest in that product, reach out to our team. We'd be happy to help. SourcePassMCOE.com, SourcePass Microsoft Center of Excellence.com. We'd love to reach out to you. We got a contact us form on there. Click the button and check it out. So hopefully this wasn't too dry. It was pretty technical today, but it's important stuff, and it's kind of fun to really, it's one of those things I enjoy dialing in DMARC and DKIM and SPF. It feels satisfying to get all the details lined up and has a lot of value for the process. Thanks again for joining us today on this episode of Demystifying Microsoft. We are going to be continuing our email security conversation the next 2 weeks, where we'll talk about those new technologies. And then we're really going to dig deeper into the Microsoft technologies between Defender for Office 365, E5 security, 365 assessments, and those sorts of things. Like I said, check us out on sourcepassmcoe.com. We also have all this content is saved onto YouTube and LinkedIn. Please follow us and subscribe. When you see a video you really like, share it with people so that they can find our stuff. We are going to get ourselves onto some podcasting platforms that you can subscribe with your favorite podcasting app. And we hope that you find this valuable. Our desire is just to be that place where you can get information about all things Microsoft, whether it's licensing, new technologies, old technologies, Azure, Teams, Copilot, security, you name it. We want to be your source for all of this information and make sure that you are confident in how you approach this rapidly evolving Microsoft ecosystem. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.